Alright, everybody, welcome to the Richard O'Reilly Show. Today is Thursday, the 8th of June, 2017, and we have a whole lot going on today. And by a whole lot, I mean James Comey, and that's about it. We have James Comey, and at the end, we'll also have the British election that is taking place as I speak right now, as a matter of fact, and I have no way of sort of getting updates on that. So if anything that I say ends up being out of date by the time this video is up, I deeply apologize for that. But yeah, I mean, so the whole Comey thing went down today. We've been waiting for this for quite some time, and there's a whole lot to say about it. There's a whole lot that went on, and a lot of it was a travesty. A whole lot of it was a travesty. As much as I hate to say it, I mean, I don't even know where to start, right? It's going to be hard to find out where to start just because there was so much that happened. There was so much that happened, and there was so much that was good, and there was so much that wasn't. My biggest take was that when you think about things that are good for us and things that are bad for us, and things that are good for the president and bad for the president, things that are good for the president are the things that are based on facts. So, for example, James Comey saying that there was no formal effort by the president or the administration to interfere in the investigation. That's a fact, and that's good for Trump. But the things that are bad are all based on speculation and feelings. That was something that I really noticed during this, was that a lot of the time Comey brought up how he felt and how he was concerned at certain points. But the big problem is, none of that matters. It doesn't matter how you felt. It doesn't matter if you were concerned. What are the facts? And that's what this whole entire Russia thing really is. I mean, there's almost no facts involved. It's all feelings. It's all suspicion. It's all just sort of being concerned about things and saying, oh, these things feel off. These things feel weird. They don't feel right. They feel different. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter like what you think. It doesn't really matter how you feel. All that matters is the actual facts of the matter. And the facts of the matter are that there's no evidence. There's no evidence whatsoever. They haven't presented anything. And yet they act like it's just a done deal. They act like it's already confirmed, even though this thing has been going on. By the way, James Comey said this has been going on since September of 2015. That was when he first found out about Russia and their supposed attack on our election. Summer of 2015. It's almost summer of 2017, and there's still been no evidence. It's been almost 2 years, and they have nothing concrete. All they have is speculation. All they have is feelings and emotions, and oh, we're concerned about this, we're concerned about that. They have nothing solid. They have no evidence. They have nothing. It's been 2 years. 2 years and they have nothing. When does it end? How long does this have to go on for? It probably has to go on for as long as Trump is president, because the truth is, Democrats, they won't let it go. They won't let it go until they can use it to get Trump out of office. That's really the main goal of this whole thing. They want to get the man out of office, and they're using this whole thing, and it's a total sham, and it's so easy to see. You can just see right through it. It's so easy to see that this whole thing is political. It's so easy to see. It's absolutely ridiculous the way that they treat this, and the way that, that these people sort of talk about this thing. They talk about, like, interference, like it's a done deal, like it's been confirmed, like there's no denying it. And they say, oh, we can't share the evidence. That'll come later on. We'll share the evidence later, at a later date, but we can't do it just yet. When does the time come where you can release the evidence? When does the time come? They insist that they have evidence, but they won't release it. They refuse to release it. Back when this first started becoming a big story, back in when the election first happened, and this whole Russia thing became a big story for the first time, people were asking, like, hey, Where's the evidence? Can you release the evidence? And they were like, oh, we can't do it at this time, but eventually we will be able to. We will be able to show you the evidence. And that hasn't happened yet. They released a report, a phony report, that had no substance. It was all just speculation, talking about how Russia is apparently a bad place and Putin's a bad guy, and talking about RT and how much they hated RT and how RT is propaganda, fake news, even though it's really not. That was the whole report. There was no substance about it, and they said, here, have this. This is our proof. All right, case closed. It's over. That's not, you don't get to do that. You don't get to just release some phony document that has nothing of substance in it and just say, oh, alright, case closed, that's it, the whole thing is over. So they say, oh yeah, we know that Russia hacked the election and that they tried to hack local elections as well. And some are even saying they tried to hack the French election. They're hacking everything. They accuse them of hacking almost everything, and they have nothing to back it up. They just have speculation, and they have feelings, and they have concerns. Your concerns don't mean anything. So anyway, let's get into the actual testimony itself, okay? So basically what we have going on is we have this whole thing going on right now with James Comey, and I have an article from the New York Times that was sort of putting the whole thing together and showing the highlights. So, New York Times, Comey testimony, special counsel has all the memos. That's the headline. That was one of the things that he said. He said that he gave all of his memos where he talked about how he had notes about conversations that he had with President Trump, and that he wrote them down. And he says now, during this testimony, he says that he gave them to the special counsel, to Mueller. He also said, now this is something that's very interesting, that almost nobody in the media is talking about right now, that people only on the right do you see people talking about it. No one in the mainstream media is talking about this at all. James Comey admitted that he was the one who leaked the memo to the press. He said that he did it to a friend, that he gave it to a friend and told the friend to leak it. So he pretty much leaked it himself. I mean, that's just because you outsource it to somebody else doesn't mean that you're automatically innocent. So he leaked these memos to the press indirectly. I mean, it was pretty much direct because it was just through a person. And he even said that it was he did it because he didn't want the press to, because he said that if he did that, then they would want more. They would want more from him. Okay, but that doesn't mean you just get to leak it like that. And by the way, there are questions about whether or not that's even legal, because here's the thing. Those were written while he was with the FBI. He was with the FBI, he wrote those notes, which they call memos for some reason. He wrote the notes, and then after he was fired from the FBI, and after he became a private citizen, he released the notes. So are those notes part of the investigation, considering that he sent the rest of them to Mueller as part of the investigation? So he leaked one of them and sent the rest to Mueller. So hang on, so is this are these private notes that you're free to leak however you want, or are these part of the investigation? Because if they're part of the investigation, then there's a whole world of legal problems surrounding leaking them like that. You can't just leak those kind of things. But Comey says that he did, and he just sort of, no one asked anything about that. He said, yeah, I leaked the notes. I leaked the note about my conversation with Trump and how he supposedly tried to get me to lay off Flynn. So I released those, and then what happened? Well, nothing happened. After that, you look at what's going on with the media, the mainstream media. Absolutely nobody said a word about it. The only place where you heard anything about the admission that he leaked the memo was from right-wing media. And right-wing media is, I mean, compared to left-wing media, is teeny tiny. So this whole thing is now going to just pass over. It's going to be a non-issue to everybody because, of course, the press, they don't report on it. They don't say anything about it. That's the thing. This is how the press controls things. Because they can just say, I'm going to report on that. I'm not going to report on that. I'm going to put a heavy emphasis on this, but I'm going to sort of de-emphasize this. That's what they do. They control the narrative like that, and it's just a horrible thing. Because of this, now, I mean, this should be a big news story. This should be a big story that Comey leaked these notes that are part of the investigation. So they may be part of the investigation, and he just went and leaked them. And this isn't even a big story. That could be a crime. That could be an offense. But no, there's nothing there. And then he even Comey admitted that he leaked them because he wanted a special counsel to be appointed. So hang on, so you're saying that you leaked these notes because you wanted a certain outcome. And by the way, the whole special counsel thing, that was a partisan thing. It was what the Democrats wanted. They wanted a special counsel. So Comey went and released the notes, and now we got a special counsel because of the note. And that was his goal. So he wanted Mueller. He wanted a special counsel. So he did that. He got what he wanted by releasing the notes and leaking them to the media. So that's what he did, and no one talks about that. No one talks about the fact that James Comey pretty much just admitted, like, yeah, I wanted to control the narrative by releasing these notes, even though they might be sensitive information because they might be part of the investigation. I leaked them because I wanted a certain outcome, and no one talks about that. No one says anything. No one even objects. No one brings up any suspicion. They just let it slide. And instead they talk about at the beginning when Comey said that Trump and his administration, that they were liars, right? He said that Trump was a liar because he said that the FBI was demoralized. Okay, here's the thing. First of all, the media reports on that. They report on that, and it's just it's a travesty the way they report on that, because here's the thing, right? All the headlines say, oh, James Comey called Trump a liar. James Comey said Trump is a liar. James Comey, Trump is a liar. That's all the headlines. But when you look into the context, you see that headline, you think, oh, he's lying. He says that he's lying about the investigation, or he's lying about the alleged interference with the investigation. You get that idea when you read that headline. But then you go to the article, and they actually just say, oh, he said that he was lying about the state and the morale of the FBI. So the headlines are totally misleading. They're completely misleading in every single way. And then when it comes to what Comey actually said, when he said that it's a lie that the FBI was demoralized and that they weren't feeling confident under Comey, that's a matter of opinion. You can't just say, oh, that's a lie, because there's no way to measure how people are feeling, how people feel about their jobs, and how they feel about Comey. What did they do, a poll? Did they do a poll in the FBI asking them how they felt about their job and how they felt about their boss? They didn't do any of that. So you can't just call it a lie. It's just an opinion. It's just an opinion. You can't just call that a lie. So James Comey comes out and calls that a lie. And the media sees that, and they say, oh, this is it. This is it. We got him. James Comey said Trump is a liar. Let's put that on the headlines. So people go and they see the headlines and they say, oh, James Comey said that Trump is a liar. He must be talking about the investigation. He must be talking about the interference. Even though he's actually talking about just, oh, the FBI wasn't demoralized under me. So it's a total matter of opinion, and yet the media reports on it like it's a fact, and like, oh yeah, it was a lie because, you know, obviously we know how the FBI, how everyone who worked there felt. There's no way to know that, so you can't say either way. You can't say, oh yeah, they were or they weren't. Trump said that, and it was more like speculation because, like, look, Comey was under a lot of fire. The whole FBI was under a lot of fire by both sides of the aisle prior to his firing. This is something that people forget, is that before James Comey was fired, everyone wanted him gone. Everyone on both sides, they all wanted Comey gone. A funny thing, I even remember, on the day that James Comey was fired, before it was even announced, like an hour before it was announced, on Twitter, I saw all the Democrats, top Democrats, saying, oh, Comey has to go. Comey was, he was inappropriate with the Hillary email investigation. He was inappropriate. He's got to go. He's got to go. And then an hour later, it comes out that Trump fired Comey. Oh, Oh, Trump fired Comey. Oh no, this is it. This is it. Russia, 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 Russia. Trump fired Comey. Russia, Russia, Russia. Even though they were saying before that they wanted him gone. So you wanted him gone, but you didn't want him fired. You wanted him to resign. He was just going to say, oh, well, some Democrats say that I did a bad job, time to resign. That's not going to happen. It wasn't going to happen at all. So you say you wanted Comey gone. He's not just going to quit because some Democrats say, oh, he handled it inappropriately. He's not just going to quit because of that. So he was fired. And then they say, oh, the timing. The timing was so suspicious. If the timing was suspicious, then why were you calling for him to be gone just like an hour ago? You say the timing. If the timing was so suspicious, and that if Comey was so important at this point in time, like you say he is, like they say that Comey was so important to the investigation that if Comey was gone, then the investigation would be like seriously impeded. But then they say oh, they said before, like, oh yeah, Comey needs to go. Comey's got to go. So is Comey a vital part of the Russia investigation? Or is he just dispensable enough for people to say, oh yeah, James Comey, he's got to go, he's got to go, he's got to go. I mean, obviously he's got to go, right? So then Trump fires Comey, and then immediately everyone has some sort of like big fit about it. Oh my god, I can't believe him. If he fired Comey, I can't believe it. And then even during the hearing, this is the thing, during the hearing, they kissed Comey's ass in a shameless way that was really, it was embarrassing to watch. The way that they kissed Comey's ass so much, it was actually embarrassing. They treated him like a war hero. They were like, oh, Mr. Comey, everyone said, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service, like he's a war hero or a veteran. Thank you for your service. We need more Americans like you. And then one of them was like, oh, Mr. Comey, you're big and strong. You should have handled... Who says that? Who says, oh, Mr. Comey, you're so big and strong? Who says that? So they were kissing his ass so much because they see him as like an American hero now. Even though it was only like a few months ago where they were saying, oh, Comey's gotta go. He mishandled Hillary's emails investigation. He's gotta go. Now they're saying, oh, American hero, the savior of democracy. We need more people like you, Mr. Comey. We need more people like you. It just doesn't make any sense. He's not a veteran. He's not a war hero. This isn't Vietnam. I don't know what they think. I don't know what they're thinking about this guy, but it's ridiculous. You know what it is? It's because they think that this is a war. They think that this is a big like fight for the sake of democracy. Like, oh, if we don't stand up to Russia, democracy will die and America will become the Soviet Union V2, Soviet Union 2.0. And they think that this is what it is. Like the way that they word it, the way that especially Mark Warner, don't even get me started with Mark Warner. Because Mark Warner said that Vladimir Putin is a dictator. This is something that a lot of people say on the left. Democrats and the press, they say, oh, the Russian dictator, Vladimir Putin. Just like they started saying Trump regime. They don't say Trump presidency or Trump administration, they say Trump regime. So what makes Putin a dictator? Oh, well, he's just an authoritarian. Okay, but he was democratically elected. He was voted into office. So he's not a dictator. Yeah, but he's a dictator because, he's an authoritarian and, he's right-wing and, he's a dictator. They have no, how can you call him a dictator? He's democratically elected, but they say, no, he's a dictator. He's a bad guy and, bad guys, dictators. Yeah, it makes sense. They say something like, oh yeah, it's, how do we know that he's really democratically elected? How do we know that he didn't tamper with the votes? How do we know that he didn't steal the election? Okay, you can say that, you can speculate, but you can't, you don't really get to say that much because here's the thing, there's no evidence. I mean, whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty? Because all they accuse people like Putin of oh yeah, Vladimir Putin, He won the election. Well, maybe he stole it. Maybe he did. We don't know. Why should we assume that he did when there's no evidence that he did? Why can't we just say innocent until proven guilty? We don't have evidence that he stole the election, so we can't just say that he did. So he's democratically elected. There's no reason to say otherwise. And he also has a tremendously high approval rating. And they say, well, maybe they're fake. Maybe they're just fake. Okay, maybe they are. How do you prove that? Well, because Putin's a bad guy and he's authoritarian and he's right wing and he's a bad guy. So bad guys, dictators, it makes sense. They have nothing of substance. It's all just, oh yeah, he's just Putin. He's a bad guy, and maybe he did it. He probably did. The reason for that is because he's just such a traditional kind of guy. He's a very traditional values kind of guy, and to them, they see that as the worst thing you can ever possibly be. I mean, traditional values, Orthodox Christianity. What? That's disgusting. Oh, Vladimir Putin, dictator, Russia. They're just out of their minds. They're out of their minds. I don't even know how to describe it other than just they're out of their minds. And then also I want to clear this up, by the way, because people might say that, oh, well, you say that the approval rating polls are fake. Here, I say that because there's been a track record of the media getting it wrong here. In Russia, they don't really have that. I mean, how do you like RT? RT is their big news thing there, and they always say, "Oh, RT, Russian propaganda network. Oh, Putin's puppet network." Okay, it's fair to say that RT has a pro-government bias, but it's not any worse than BBC's pro-government gut bias. Because BBC is state-run media as well, and so is RT. So if you want to bash RT and say, oh, it's a state-run media outlet, it's Russian propaganda network, then you also have to bash BBC, because it's run by the British government. It's British, it's you can call it a British propaganda network, even though it really isn't. Is BBC now a British propaganda network because RT is a Russian propaganda network? It's not, because BBC is generally a pretty quality news outlet, and so is RT. The people who bash RT and say, "Oh, RT, Russian propaganda," they've probably never even read or watched anything from RT, because it's actually relatively fair and quality when it comes to their news. They're generally pretty good about what they do. So this whole idea that, oh, Russian propaganda, state news network, that you can't trust their polls, you can't trust anything, it's just completely untrue. There's nothing to sort of back that up. On the other hand, we actually do have proof that the mainstream media is in it with the Democrats. I mean, we saw in the emails, that, the DNC threatened Joe Scarborough and Morning Joe. They were like, hey, you guys, you're not being too fair to Hillary. I mean, maybe we have to have a talk with your boss. So they threatened hosts, TV hosts. And now people say, oh, well, Russian propaganda network. No, MSNBC is Democratic propaganda network. New York Times, Washington Post, all these outlets are just Democratic propaganda networks. But it's apparently a conspiracy to say that, even though we have documentation that the DNC and a lot of these news networks are in it together. I mean, really just in it together. And it's corrupt, and it's sickening, and of course, no one talks about it. No one ever says anything about it. So it's just ridiculous. I mean, when it comes to this whole thing with Comey, and of course Mark Warner tried to make it seem like this big clash of civilizations. Just a couple days ago, it was people complaining about how, we can't let ISIS turn this whole thing into a clash of civilizations. And now they're doing the same thing with Russia, though. They're saying, oh yeah, Russia versus the West, autocracy versus democracy, East versus West, clash of civilizations. It's just like a big show. That's what it feels. It's just a big show. I wasn't really paying attention back during, when we were having the Iraq War and Afghanistan. But now that I'm paying attention now, and I see what's going on, I can see firsthand now how the establishment gets us into wars. This is how it happens. I mean, they build up Russia as like some big enemy. They literally say, Russia is going to come for us. Russia is coming for us. Like, Russia is coming to like, blow up the country and nuke us. What is this, the Cold War? Is it the Cold War? Is it 1984? No, it's not 1984 anymore. What are you talking about? So, there was a question also to Comey. It was, he was asked about this whole, how Trump says that it's a witch hunt and how it's fake news. And he said that, no, it's not a witch hunt, even though it is. It's not fake news, even though it is. He said that this isn't about party, it's about country. But it is about party. It is about party. This is, when you look at the polls, like, only about half of Democrats believe this whole Russia thing. And Republicans, almost none. Almost no one believes the whole Russia thing. So it's just a big joke. It's like a big joke. They act like, oh yeah, everyone is on our side when it comes to Russia. Everyone is all about this whole Russia thing, even though they're not. They act like this is a big thing about how everyone, all Americans are concerned. They say, oh, Americans, they want to get to the facts. They want to get to the bottom of this. But when it comes down to it, most Americans don't even believe this. It's like, what, 25% of Americans when you take half of Democrats and like almost no Republicans at all? So almost nobody buys this. No one buys this at all. Except for like the big establishment and like a couple, like about half of like the Democrats base. Like, who actually believes that this Russia thing is like a legitimate like the biggest concern? Like, who actually believes that outside of like the establishment? Have you ever met someone in real life who thinks, oh yeah, Russia, if we don't stop that Russia, America's gonna be over? Like, is anyone gonna say in 2018 and 2020 at the booth, like, oh man, I was gonna vote for Trump, I was gonna vote Republican, but then I'm really worried about Russia. I might have to vote Democrat. No one's gonna say that. No one's gonna say that at all because no one buys this. No one buys the whole Russia thing. So then, after the whole thing happened, Paul Ryan came out and tried to give a bit of a sort of defense of Trump, and it wasn't very good. Paul Ryan, now I'll give him credit because this is him defending the president, which in the past he has not done. But the defense is probably one of the worst I've ever seen. He says the president is new at this. He's new to government, and so he probably wasn't steeped in the long-running protocols that established the relationships between the Department of Justice, FBI, and White Houses. He's just new to this. So that's what they say. They say, oh, he's new. You know, give him a bit of a break. You know. And look, I mean, is that a valid argument? Yeah, I mean, it kind of is because it's the truth. I mean, he is new to the whole political thing. But at the same time, like, if you want to defend the man, why can't you defend him using actual, like, the facts? Why can't you defend him using, like, you know, what we know about how there's no evidence, there's none at all, is all speculation, and Democrats are pushing these conspiracy theories about how Russia hacked the election directly, and hacked local elections, and hacked the French election, how we have all these conspiracies that are completely unproven. Why can't he say that? Why does he have to say, oh, he's new, give him a break, you know, he didn't know? That's the weakest argument I've seen so far in favor of the president. That's the weakest argument I've seen. Because no, sure, it's an explanation, but it's not an excuse. It's not a good excuse at all. So, it's good that we have Paul Ryan defending Trump, but his line of defense is so weak, he might as well not say anything at all. Why can't we have people actually come out, Republicans actually come out, and give a passionate defense of the president? Because they don't have any passion. They don't have any kind of passion at all. It's just an embarrassing thing to see. I mean, it's just, why can't we have a party that actually stands up for the president and that actually stands up for what the base wants and what the base thinks? Because the base is completely over this whole Russia thing. We're so sick and tired of hearing about Russia every day. Why can't we talk about jobs? Why can't we talk about immigration? Why can't we talk about healthcare and education? Why can't we talk about any of that? Why do we have to talk about Russia all the time? Why can't we change the subject? Why can't we be talking about things that actually matter? I want to talk about things that matter. I want to talk about education and healthcare and jobs and the wall and stuff like that. And, repealing Obamacare. I want to talk about all that. But I can't because I get consumed in Russian news every day. It's all they talk about. It's all the media talks about. And it's ridiculous. And it needs to end quickly. And the only way for it to end quickly is if we have a party that comes out and defends the president and uses the actual facts. And the facts are, there's no evidence at all. There's not even evidence to suggest that Russia even meddled in the election. Forget about hacking. Forget about collusion. There was no evidence for meddling. There was no evidence that they hacked the emails and leaked them. There was no evidence that they pushed fake news to influence the election. There was no evidence at all. And also, this is a quote, this is something that really disturbed me. That disturbed me in a major way. One of the senators said that this was an attempt to manipulate the way that we think by the Russians. So this is mind games now. This is them saying, you guys on the right, Republicans, you only think the way you do because of Russian propaganda and Russian rewiring of your brain through fake news and stuff like that. That's the message they're sending. They're saying, hey Republicans, hey conservatives, you guys vote for Trump, but it's only because Russia hacked your brain with fake news, right? Russia hacked my brain with their fake news. Is that the new thing? Russia hacked my brain? They're using mind games, and it's just disgusting, and it's just a scary thing to see. Alright, anyway, take a quick break. I gotta have a drink real quick. I just talked for like a half hour. Let me have a drink real quick. Fantastic. Love it. I have to drink a little bit because it's just too hot in here, And I'm also a little bit sick, and I had to move my fan away because it was just too loud. I don't know if it made a difference. I hope it did, because I'm so hot now because of it. I moved my fan out of the way just because it was just too loud in the microphone. But now I'm sweating, and I'm worried that that's not gonna go away, the sound of the fan. So I'm very sorry about that. I'll try and fix that eventually. I have no idea how, because I need to be cooled. I can't just be sitting here in the heat. But at the same time, I mean, this fan is just not gonna. It's gonna be loud. Maybe I get one that's like quieter. I don't know. I'll see what I can do. Anyway, let's move on. So I have an article from Politico, multiple articles from Politico. It describes how an aide for Trump described his mood as light as the testimony unfolded. So this is interesting. So Trump was he was in a light mood about this whole thing. From the article it says, President Donald Trump decided the night before the former FBI Director James Comey's Senate testimony that he would not live tweet his rebuttal, according to two White House officials. So Trump decided that he wouldn't tweet, and he didn't. During the testimony, he did not send out any tweets at all. I haven't been on Twitter in a little bit, so maybe he's tweeted out at this point, but during the testimony, there was no tweeting whatsoever. So that's interesting. That shows that he was sort of calm about the whole thing. The media, they like to paint this whole picture of Trump as like some really angry kind of guy. They've been saying this for a long time, and it's really odd, because it hasn't really stuck, but they go with it anyway. So they were saying during the campaign, like, oh, Trump is furious. He's furious behind the scenes with his campaign, and he's furious about the polls, and he's furious about Hillary, and furious about the media. They always say, "Oh, Trump is fuming. He's heated. He's furious. He's so angry." But like, you can't. First of all, there's no proof. Obviously, there's no proof. I mean, they never have any proof. And second, like, what does that mean? Like, oh, he was angry. Okay, I mean, emotions, they exist, you know, and I mean, as long as he's not making decisions based on the anger, which really he hasn't been doing. I mean, you can see that since he hasn't been tweeting, the urge was probably so strong. I mean, imagine you're in that position. Imagine you're the president. I know it's hard to imagine. Imagine you're the president, and you have someone, your former FBI director, going and talking about you in a testimony, trashing you big time. And you had your phone, and you had Twitter on it. How strong would the urge be to not use that Twitter account? And he didn't. So he had some self-control, which is a good thing. And he was watching it. But I mean, it's just something that is very interesting to note. Because he's just sort of like, he's been calm lately. I mean, he hasn't, there was talk about how he might try and stop Comey from giving his testimony. That didn't happen. He let him go. He let him do it. And then there was talk about how, oh, he's gonna be so furious about this right now. And now it comes out that he's not. He's actually in a pretty light mood. And he also said during a meeting, he was giving a speech to religious leaders, and he was very happy, it seemed. I mean, not happy. I mean, like, he was very positive about the whole thing. He said, we're gonna fight back. We're gonna use facts. We're just gonna, and you know, we know how to fight better than anybody. And he's kind of right. And that's a good sign. That's a very good sign, because he needs to fight. He needs to fight against all of this whole narrative and all of this like fake news and all of this like what Comey says. How a lot of what Comey said was just oh, I was concerned. Comey said, by the way, Comey said that he didn't take notes of conversations that he had with other presidents between George Bush and Barack Obama. He never took notes, but he said, I took notes for Trump because I felt like I might need to, because I felt like he's a liar and I felt like he's not trustworthy. James Comey, you're the head of the FBI. The fact that you feel like, oh, I feel like this guy is not trustworthy. I feel like this guy is lying. You feel. It doesn't matter what you feel. You're supposed to be doing your job based on facts and based on evidence and like stone cold and like cold hard proof. But there was none of that. He just said, I kept notes because I felt like he was a suspicious kind of guy. I felt the need. You felt the need? What do you mean you felt the need? How do you feel the need? Because the media says he's a liar, because PolitiFact of all websites says, oh yeah, Trump a liar. So you're gonna believe them. You're the director of the FBI, and you're gonna say, oh, I can't trust this guy because, you know, PolitiFact gave him Lie of the Year in 2015. I mean, PolitiFact, by the way, is just a mess and a disgrace and just and fake news. I mean, honestly, I am so glad that the whole fact check websites are sort of like dying out. I'm so glad, because they were used a lot during the campaign, and they were awful. They were god awful. Even during one of the debates, I remember Hillary. She was like, "Oh guys, this is a funny thing about Hillary." During one of the debates, that just came off to me as absolutely hilarious and kind of infuriating. But looking back now, like, it was infuriating at the time because, you know, we were in the middle of the campaign. But, you know, now that it's over and looking back, it's kind of hilarious how she would go every time she was asked a question about how, like, she would say, oh, Trump is wrong. Okay, how is Trump wrong? Oh, just go to my website and check the fact-checking section. I mean, why argue? Why argue when you can just direct your people to go into your website? How is Trump a liar? Well, if you go to my website, HillaryClinton.com, check out my website and my store. Check out my website, the fact-checking section. You can see. go to my website, HillaryClinton.com. That was hilarious to me. But at the time, it was infuriating because this whole idea of a fact-checking website, where you have like this one website where it's like the almighty, where they decide what's right and what's wrong. That's a scary thing to think about. So I'm so glad that those whole things are sort of over now, and they've sort of died out a little bit. They were a bit of like a fad, and they're sort of over now, and thank God for that, because they were awful. Anyway. Sorry about that. I have more from the article. Trump watched the hearings from the White House dining room, surrounded by aides and lawyers who went in and out of the room as the hearing went on. A senior aide described Trump's mood during the hearing as light. So he was light about the whole thing, and you know, that shows to me that he feels like he's got it under control, which is a good thing. Because he needs to have it under control, because right now it's out of control. He needs to sort of reel everything in. He needs to have a team. I was disappointed that he wasn't putting together his attack team, which I feel like he should have done. But he needs to be on message. He needs to go out, and he needs to say, look, Russia is a witch hunt. It's fake news. Let's be honest. We all know that it's not a legitimate thing. Russia isn't the greatest enemy of all time. Russia, the Cold War is over. There's no threat anymore. Russia is just Russia. Putin knows his place in the world. Putin's not going to try and become the next world superpower. Putin doesn't want to be Julius Caesar. Putin doesn't want to be the new emperor of mankind. Putin's not Napoleon. Putin isn't a threat. But he needs to go out and say that, and it seems like he sort of has a bit of an idea. It seems like he's keeping his head, he's keeping cool, he's keeping himself level-headed, and he's going to go out, and he's going to just hammer down on the facts, and say, look, no evidence, it's all speculation, it's all feelings and concerns, there's no facts, no facts, no facts. I mean, just imagine, I mean, that could be, if that was all he said, was just no facts, no facts, no facts, that would be enough. I mean, seriously, that would be enough, because there are no facts. No facts, no evidence, whatever you want to say. That would honestly be enough to sort of put this whole thing to rest. Just going out there and saying, no facts, no facts, no facts. Democrats want to say Russia, 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 no facts, no facts, no facts, and that would be enough. But go even further than that. Talk about how they report these things and how they twist and try and bend what's going on and try and change the narrative for their own for their own good. How they like to use headlines, like I said before, about how they used Comey saying, "Oh, Trump is a liar." How they sort of used that as a headline to like manipulate people. How they use the headline to sort of say, "Oh, Comey said that Trump is a liar." So obviously that means that Trump lied about the investigation, right? No, it means that Trump supposedly lied about the state of the FBI. But you can't tell how they were feeling. You didn't do a poll of like FBI agents and ask them like, hey, how do you feel about James Comey? There was no polls, so you can't say it was a lie. You can say that it was speculation. You can come out and say, oh, it wasn't like if he came out and said that the FBI was demoralized, but he can't prove that. That would have been fine. But if you say he's a liar, he's not a liar because it's just opinion. And it's just speculation. And it's an educated guess based on what was going on with the whole, how Comey was taking so much heat from absolutely everybody. So it's not like it was crazy to suggest that, yeah, maybe the FBI is demoralized, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Even though he did say that they were. But, why didn't Comey just come out and say, oh, he wasn't right, he didn't have, like, evidence for that, he didn't have facts? That would have been fine, but he said Trump is a liar, and the media ate it up. The media ate it up completely, and they blew it up into this whole big thing, and now it's on all the headlines, it's like the biggest takeaway from the whole thing is, oh, Comey said that Trump is a liar. He said that Trump lied about the state of the FBI, not about the investigation, not about the interference or Flynn, nothing like that. So I'm so sick of the whole media spin. I really am. It's just the whole thing needs to stop. And you know what? I really do hope that Trump is truly calm about this and that he comes out collected and cool and that he comes out and just says, look it, there's no evidence, there's no facts. Russia isn't the greatest enemy of all time. Russia isn't a bigger threat than ISIS, as John McCain said. Russia is just Russia. Stop with the conspiracy theories and the speculation and the feelings and the innuendo. Just stop it all. Alright, I have two more articles here. I have one from the BBC about the election in Britain, and I have one more about James Comey. It's just, I'm sorry, I know it's taken up a lot of time today, but it's just the big story today, you know? It's the big story today. And there's also a classified briefing going on, not briefing, a classified hearing going on right now behind closed doors. God knows what's going on in there. We have no idea. It's just, I don't know. I just really want to get to the bottom of it. I just want it to end. I want to put this whole Russia thing behind us. That was the goal of this whole thing. The goal of this whole thing was to put Russia behind us, but it's just, now it's just going to go on for even longer now. It's going to go on for even longer, and it's probably never going to end, at least as long as the Democrats are, like, in control of the whole narrative. So yeah. Excuse me real quick. Took another nice sip there. Anyway, sorry about that. I'm just very sick. Let us move on. Okay. So Politico also says that the West Wing aides are fearful of directly attacking Comey. So this is a story from Politico that just is absolutely disturbing. This whole idea that people in the administration are afraid to attack Comey because they fear that they might have legal trouble because of that. Now this is something that's very sketchy and suspicious and scary that should concern everyone. Because now we have the White House in a position where they feel afraid to fight back against the media narrative because they're afraid that they might have people attacking them and that they might face legal trouble. That's just insane. That's just insane. You shouldn't be afraid to criticize people because you feel like you might end up being investigated because of it. This is what happened with Nixon. We're seeing it happen now. I mean, it's just like they're being punished. They're being punished because some people said, "Oh, Russia." Who even, who came up with Russia? I was gonna ask like, oh, who made up this whole Russia thing? It was Hillary. Hillary was the first one to say, oh, Russia, maybe Trump and Putin are friends, and maybe Trump and Russia are in it together because Trump said Putin's a good guy and a good leader, so Putin puppet, Russian agent, put it together. That was Hillary who said that. But now it's turned into this whole big thing for all the Democrats, all of the establishment. It's turned into this big thing. And it's like everyone is afraid to say anything. Because that's probably why Trump had to call off his his war room that he was going to have. He was going to have a war room where he was going to have people that were going to go out and give people the facts and say, and push back against this whole Russia narrative and push and fight like they should be doing. But now it turns out they can't do that. They're afraid to do that. Because if they do that, they might end up being caught up in this whole investigation because they're going to be seen as attacking witnesses and attacking the investigators. So this is just a travesty. I mean, they're afraid to attack, to go after people and to sort of fight back because they're afraid they might face legal trouble. That's ridiculous. You can't have that. That's not a thing. You can't just have that in a government. You can't just have like a rogue intelligence community that's going to threaten people who try and fight back against their narrative. You just can't have that. It's absolutely ridiculous and it's insane and it's just, I don't even know where this all comes from. I really do genuinely want to know why this whole Russia-phobia thing is big now with the establishment. Do they actually want war with Russia? I mean, is that what they want? Is that their goal? I mean, it seems like it. It really does seem like it. I mean, you had Rachel Maddow come out and say, like, a few months ago, like, oh, if Trump de-escalates with Russia, well, then that proves that he's just a Russian agent. So what do you want? You want him to escalate with Russia? You want him to escalate? Push us to war? Is that what you want? So they're so... Like, do they want war? What do they want? And now people are saying that this could be used, this whole Comey hearing, this could be used to push for new Russia sanctions. New Russia sanctions. I covered this yesterday. I covered this a few days ago. These whole Russia sanctions that they're talking about. Talking about new sanctions on Russia, along with the Iran sanctions that they're gonna be probably pushing through. And then I said that Lindsey Graham is considering having part of that bill be that President Trump can't veto, he can't roll back the sanctions that are already there. That the Senate would veto his rollbacks, essentially. That's a thing? Has that ever been a thing? You have Congress going and saying, oh, Mr. President, we have these sanctions for really no reason at all. I know you want to get rid of them, but if you want to, we won't let you. Why? Because Russian agent, Putin puppet, because, collusion and, it feels wrong, it feels suspicious. That's the thing. They say how a lot of the things that Trump did went against orthodoxy and how it went against tradition and the established sort of like decorum. That was his appeal. His whole appeal was that he wouldn't be like other politicians. Now they say, oh, he wasn't like he was so different from the other politicians. It was so suspicious. I mean, maybe that proves that he's with Russia. That was what Comey was really talking about. When Comey said that, oh, well, I didn't keep notes of my conversations with Obama and George Bush because I didn't feel suspicious about them. But I feel suspicious about Trump, so I kept the notes. You feel that because he doesn't do things like the rest of the politicians do. He does things differently. That's the reason. That was like the main part of his appeal, was that he was so different from the usual like establishment, like really scripted and like fake politicians. That they always they have to follow decorum and like the old like 1,000-year-old rules and all the traditions and all of the like the fake manufactured speeches and tweets that didn't feel like they were made by humans at all. People were tired of that, so they said, look at this guy. This guy's going to go in there and he's going to shake things up and he's going to do things differently. We want that guy. So they voted for that guy. He got in. Trump got in. And then now they're saying, oh, he does things so differently. It's so suspicious. That was his appeal. That was his appeal. That was his main appeal during the election, was that he was different. He wasn't like the rest of the politicians. He was different. He was going to shake things up. That was his appeal. And now you're saying, oh, he's so different. It's so suspicious. It's so strange. That was the reason that he was elected. And now you're saying that is now proof that he's like in some sort of like some crazy deal with Russia and he's trying to cover up the investigation, cover up his crimes of colluding with Russia, and how Flynn colluded with Russia, even though it's not at all like, it's not a strange thing to talk to Russian officials. It's not a strange thing to talk to foreign officials as a member of the transition team. That's not a strange thing. There's precedent for that. But they come out and they say, he breached decorum, he breached the tradition. Nobody ever meets with the Russian diplomats and Russian people. But they say that it's tradition. That people meet with foreign diplomats all the time. But they say, oh, it's a hostile diplomat. It's from a hostile foreign government. What are you talking about? A hostile foreign government? Russia is not a hostile nation. There's no. Putin doesn't want war with America. Sorry about that. Putin isn't out there yelling, "Oh, death to America, death to America." Putin is just Putin. Putin's trying to run his country. What do you mean? What is this whole? Where does this idea come from that Russia is a hostile government, and that we're dealing with a hostile foreign power, like we're talking about ISIS, like Russia is the new ISIS, like Russia is out there chanting "death to America," like you know, Al Qaeda and all them. Russia is not our greatest enemy. Get real. Russia is not worse than ISIS. Get real, John McCain. Russia is not our greatest enemy. Russia is not a foreign power, not a hostile foreign power. Russia is not coming for America. Russia isn't coming for us. Russia isn't going to come and try and annex the country. What, is Putin going to land in Alaska, try and take back Alaska? Get real. Get real. It's not happening. Anyway. That was a lot. It's just, yeah, I mean, I get intense and I get emotional just because, like, this whole Russia thing is just so ridiculous, and it's just, I'm so tired of hearing about it. I'm so tired of hearing about it every single day. This should have been over a while ago. But it's still going on, and I can't do anything about that, which is unfortunate because I hate talking about it every day, all day, constantly. It just never ends. Let's move on to something a bit better, right? Let's move on to the elections in Britain. So right now, the UK election is going on as we speak, as I speak, more like, because this isn't live. As I speak, this is going on. So by the time this video is up, it'll probably be we'll probably have a little bit more news from it. We should have the results by Friday afternoon, but they could actually come in earlier though, because there are no local elections taking place at the same time, which is unusual. But that means that we might get results sooner than usual. So that's a good thing. In order to form a majority in the House of Commons, one party has to win 326 seats, and polls show that Conservatives have an edge over the Labour Party. It's interesting to see. I'm not well versed in British politics, so I don't want to say too much about this. But all I need to say is that I really do hope that this election means that we can get on with Brexit as soon as possible. Because the EU, I have bad feelings about the EU. I feel like the EU is trying to be something that it's not. It's trying to be a state. The EU is trying to be a state. There are talks about how they might have a European Union and EU armed forces, which is terrifying, and how Merkel seemed like she's trying to be like the Empress of Europe. They talk about Vladimir Putin. What about Merkel? Merkel is trying to like make Germany the new capital of Europe. And now that Britain is on their way out, you can guarantee that Germany is going to try and become like the new world power, the new power in Europe. I mean, they already are to an extent, even though the UK is still like sort of like the big dogs there. But Germany's going to try and do a little bit of a power grab now that Britain's out of the picture, more or less. It's just a scary thing to see, and I really do hope that Britain gets out as soon as possible. And I hope that they do get a good deal from the EU. I hope they don't get crippled by this whole thing. And I do hope that President Trump follows through with his promise that he was going to make a deal with Britain after Brexit, that they were going to keep on trading. Even though Obama said that they wouldn't, which was dumb. Why would we stop trading with the UK over Brexit? Brexit was a democratic decision. It was a referendum. So it was a democratic decision by the people. So why would you punish the country for what the people wanted? I don't understand that at all. But that is all I had to say about that, with the whole British election and with the whole James Comey, everything that's going on. We are at about an hour, almost at an hour, and it has been a crazy day. It is always crazy these days, you know. It is always every day is a crazy day, but today was especially crazy because of all of this Comey stuff and all of the Russia stuff, and now with Britain as well. Everything's happening today. Today is absolutely insane. So, I had a lot to talk about. My voice is a bit shot right now for all the talking. I'm still a little bit sick. I'm very sorry about that. I want to be able to like sort of talk a bit more clearly and with a bit more loudness, I guess. I'm a bit soft right now because I'm just a little bit sick, and I'm sorry about that. But anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. I have been Richard O'Reilly with the Richard O'Reilly Show on YouTube. Have a fantastic, wonderful, and amazing day. Really just have the best day you can ever possibly even have. Thank you very much.